Hello everyone, this is the video of Legal Studies, Class 12, Unit 1st, that is Judiciary, and the topic is Basic Structure. But if you remember our last 3 videos that we have been discussing on the topic of judicial review. So this is again the concept of basic structure is defined by keeping in mind the concept of judicial review. So please relate this concept with the concept of judicial review. Do not forget that. Okay, so let's begin the topic, that is the concept of basic structure. In fact, under Article 368, I believe you must know what it says, that is the amendment provision, which defines the amendment power of the legislature. The question is raised, that is, can legislature exercise unlimited power, focus on the term unlimited power, to amend any provision of the Constitution, including the fundamental rights, or the amending power is limited to certain provisions. So what this question is saying, that Parliament can amend any part of the Constitution or any provision mentioned in the Constitution, or it has certain limitation that certain provision cannot be amended. And this is how, through this question, the concept of basic feature or basic structure, both terms are same. So do not get confused. If I use interchangeably, then you can understand both are same. Okay. So this is how the concept of basic feature evolved. The doctrine of basic structure forms the basis of a power of the Supreme Court to review and strike down. Please pay attention here on these two terms, that is to review, because we are discussing the concept of judicial review, and a strike down, if required, the constitutional amendments and acts legislated and enacted by the Parliament, in case if newly made provision conflicts with or seek to alter the basic structure of the Constitution. So it's saying simply that judicial review that we are discussing till now, through that judiciary can declare any of the provision that is amended or legislated or enacted by the Parliament, which is basically inconsistent. Even remember our prior videos that we have already discussed these points, so I believe you shouldn't have the problem in understanding these concepts. So it is the same. Now, however, the term basic structure is not explicitly defined in the Constitution, but it introduced through the case laws by the Supreme Court of India. So this is another mandate that you need to understand. As we have discussed in my first class of the judicial review, that even the concept of judicial review is not defined in the Constitution explicitly, means that term is not used. Similarly, the concept of basic structure or basic feature is not defined in the Constitution. Okay, but there are certain provisions in the Constitution that defines the provision of, or basically the concept of basic structure. At this point in time, I would like you to note down another important point, that is, while defining the concept of basic structure or basic feature of the Constitution, by the time even judiciary didn't define explicitly or conclusively what are the provisions those covered under the doctrine of basic structure. So do not forget this point. This is an open-end concept, and there are by the time more than 20 provisions those are defined as basic structure. Now let's check out the development of the principle of basic structure through the case laws. First time in 1964, In the case Sajan Singh versus State of Rajasthan, the first time the concept of basic feature was theorized by Justice J.R. Mudholkar. He wondered that whether the ambit of Article 368, remember the Article 368 talking about the amendment provision, include the power to alter a basic feature or rewrite a part of the constitution. If you remember the beginning of this video, I started with the same question. So I inspired from this statement to start this video with that question. So it's the same question asking whether the parliament has unlimited power to amend any part of the constitution to any extent, or even to this extent that it can even rewrite, or it has some limitation. Further, in 1967, the Supreme Court in Golaknath versus the State of Punjab held that fundamental rights included in Part 3 of the Constitution are given a transcendental position and are beyond the reach of Parliament. It also declared that any amendment that takes away or abuses a fundamental right conferred by Part 3rd as unconstitutional. So Part 3rd, if you remember the Article 13, so Part 3rd is something like the most secured part that cannot be amended in any condition. So Part 3rd is such kind of provision in the Constitution that cannot be amended in any condition. However, lastly in 1973, the basic structure doctrine was formally introduced with rigorous legal reasoning in Justice Hansraj Khanna's decisive judgment in the landmark decision of the most popular case. Most of us know that is Kesavanand Bharati versus State of Kerala. In its landmark ruling, the Supreme Court adjudicating that while Parliament has wide, focus on this term, while Parliament has wide powers, but it didn't have the power to destroy or emasculate the basic elements of fundamental rights or fundamental features of the Constitution. So this is how the concept of basic structure evolved through the cases. However, again the same question, that is how it is related to judicial review, because if you remember we are discussing the concept of judicial review. So how it is related with the concept of judicial review? Well, if there is any question on the concept of basic feature or basic structure, then through the concept of, basically through the principle of judicial review, judiciary decides whether it comes under the concept of judicial review or not. So this is all about the concept of basic feature in the reference of judicial review. Hope you must enjoyed these videos of judicial review, and you may club all these videos and can watch all together in order to understand clearly. I repeat, must watch 2 or 3 times so that you can remember it forever. So see you in next video.